Good morning, Scott here, hope you're well. So we've settled into the new quarter. Yesterday was the first day of the new quarter, the new week, new month, new quarter. So there's a lot more opening of positions again. So some pairs that had big sell-offs on last Friday as people closed positions had big buying as well to reopen those positions. So the market settled down, which is nice. Now we do have a lot of stuff to talk about today, so let's get straight into this. Right, here we go. Usual thing, we'll start my watch list here on the right, and we'll start with the higher time frames to give you an idea. It's always good to start with higher time frames to get an idea of how it's looking right now, and then as you drill down to the lower time frames, it kind of makes sense. You have a feeling for which way you want the market to go or expect the market to go. So Aussie Swiss was the first one on the list. It's alphabetical. And what do we have? Yesterday, look at that, a massive bullish run yesterday. Lots of buying, either from the Aussie being strong or the Swiss being weak. So we expect the momentum to continue today. We're in the daily 20, daily 50 zone, so a little bit of caution, but some people don't trade in that zone because it can be a bit more unpredictable, but that's not everyone. So here we are. We did have some news yesterday from the Swiss in the afternoon, well, my time in the afternoon, which was around about here sometime. If anything, it accelerated the move up. So what we have there is you see a massive bullish run. The fib has to come from the bottom of this run. We can't use these little wicks here on the hourly for the fib because people just aren't looking at that. So we have to use the fibs that most people, the big traders will be using. If we're not using the same fibs as them, then we're going to get out of whack and not have our positions won't play out as well. So and we can usually tell because if you look at the 4-hour chart up here, you can see it's a big bull run all the way up. No pullbacks at all. So yes, the fib goes there and it actually lines up quite well with the daily pivot, this faint blue line here. That's the 382 lines up with the pivot. 382 is our entry or around that area. And we've got the 4-hour 50, the blue line, just below it. And the 1-hour 50 catching up. Aussie Swiss, anytime today, probably UK, probably maybe 4, 5, 6 hours. It'll pull back to this area, get an entry. The daily 50, so the daily 20 is this red line here, the faint red line we saw it touching on the daily chart. Which I'll zoom into the hourly. So we can trade up to the daily 50. Or if you want to be a bit more conservative, up to this. This is the R1 of the daily pivots. So that can also be a resistance level as well. So that might be a good target. Either way, a couple of percent on offer potentially. So that's looking very nice. One of my favorites for the day. Aussie yen. Right, so we had a big sell-off on Friday, big run up again today. The momentum may continue. Today, we'll see how the hourly chart looks. Should be today. The hourly chart looks like this. So we had a massive bull run yesterday, basically from the open. When did the open start? No, around here somewhere. So very strong bull run. Fibs from the bottom to the top. 382 again lines up with the daily pivot, which is nice. Extra confluence, and the hourly 50 is about the same area as well, so that can pull back any time. Aussie yen, Asian pair, could happen early in the day for us. So wait for that to pull back hopefully, and that'll give us a nice entry, play up to just below the daily 50, daily 20, these lines up here. And that will give us just 2% off of that. That's a nice one. So that's looking quite good. Aussie USD. So quite a few of these are similar. Aussie USD, again, a bullish day after a bearish day on Friday. Expecting that bullish run to continue. On the hourly, the fib from the lows to the highs, 382 of the fib, which is our entry, lines up very well with the pivot and the hourly 50. We've already hit the 4-hour 50, something to be thinking about. So this being an IBO, initial breakout, because the first time this run has broken the 1-hour 50, it's going to pull back, we hope, for an entry. So the only caution here is the 4-hour 50 has already been touched, already been reached. So we've got to play through it, basically. It's always good to get 1-to-1 before the 4-hour 50, because that can act as resistance. So if we get an entry down here somewhere, yeah, it's a bit tight, then we can remove risk at 1%. And that way, if this does pull back, it will be a break-even trade at worst. So that's going to be a bit tight. Always something to consider, but otherwise, some people should trade straight through the 4-hour 50. Personally, yeah, I'll just trade through it. I don't care. We've got this very strong bullish action, so I expect this to continue. Yeah, so that's one for later on. Go to Swiss. Swiss on the daily. Wow, look at that. It was a very bullish day yesterday, massive run up. It's been hit this major support level here, been hanging around here for a while. It was oversold. We had a MACD divergence. We've got much lower lows here, but the lows, a higher low there and a similar low there. So MACD divergence. So looking for higher prices, we certainly got that yesterday, expecting that bullish momentum to continue. And here we are on the hourly. Again, fibs from the lows to the highs. It pulls back to 382. It's roughly where the pivot is. 1-hour 50 will be up there. The 4-hour 50, this blue line, will be in our before I stop. So stop behind the 618, which is this green line. And that'll give us protection from the 618 before I stop. And the 4-hour 50 will be about here somewhere, I presume. CAD Swiss is not an Asian currencies in there, so that won't be till UK Open, which is about 6 hours or so from now. Plenty of time for this to pull back. Trading through the daily 20. Kind of disregarded it here anyway. And we can play it up to the daily 50. And also that lines up with the R1 of the daily pivots. That'd be a good price target. Getting a couple of % on offer if that does pull back. It could be nice too. Swiss yen. Swiss yen had a bearish day yesterday. It's kind of sitting on this level, isn't it? I just noticed that. So we're sitting on that level there. So a bit of caution playing that one short. Let's see what the hourly gives us. Okay, so we're looking for a pip snatcher, quick 1-to-1. Let's run down here, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4 pullback. We don't want to go below these lows, which as you can see here, it's kind of a respected level. So a bit risky, but it looks like a wave 5, putting back to the daily 20, which is red line, and then going short. So probably not the best trade, but it's an option. I'll put that out of my best list. Okay, Euro Aussie. Again, a bearish day yesterday after a bullish day on Friday. So expect that momentum to continue to the downside. The fibs, I believe, are not very good on this one, which is why I've removed them. Do a fib from the top to the bottom. Yeah, the 382 is right up here, so it's not really very nice. There are better options out there, better trades, especially Euros and Aussies. But we do have a potential pitch snatcher on here, just the 1-to-1. Enter the pivot, so just break the 4-hour 50, take the pivot, oops, didn't need to do that, and trade this short for a quick 1-to-1. Stop behind the R1, this top line here, and usually we want 1-to-1 to the lows, but as this is early in the trend, I wouldn't worry about that one so much personally. So yeah, whether that turns up, because we've already got the 1-hour 50 here anyway, we're not likely to get an entry above the pivot. So entering at the pivot, quick 1-to-1, as it plays down to the 4-hour 50 more than likely. So that's a good option there. Euro Swiss, what does that give us? Okay, so we've had a bullish run for the last 3 days. Just broken the daily 50, this red line. And we're looking for that to continue upwards. Then a pip snatcher, quick 1-to-1. Do you have any trend lines in here? So we've got one about here somewhere. The 1-hour 50 is here, catching up. Do the trend line from here as well. Maybe. So when we get a pullback in 6 to 8 hours, that's not an important one. Pullback to the daily 50, or around that area, which is this green line. Daily 50 catching up. So I'll be entering about here somewhere. Hopefully getting we're aiming for a 1-to-1 before the highs, and the stop below this R1, S1, that'll be S1. So stop below the S1 and quick 1-to-1 trade up to these highs. Kiwi, we've got a lot on offer today. Again, we've got this very bearish day yesterday. Momentum to continue, we hope. I think the fib, that's a very skinny fib. Let's make it a bit fatter. So the fib pullback to 382 is not very good. So we don't really need that one. It's not going to help us. Maybe pull back to the pivot, because quick 1-to-1. Maybe not. I did make that one. It's probably not the best of trades. There are better things on offer. Pound yen. Again, very bullish on the pound. Last few days. Momentum to continue. Not overbought yet, I presume. So looking at the RSI for oversold, overbought, it was oversold down here. We've got this massive doji or low test, and a bullish run from there, and it's not overbought yet, so still room for it to go higher. Back to the hourly chart, and we've got a nice little trend line in here. And for a quick 1-to-1 pip snatcher. We've already had breakout. This is the IBO happening here. A nice one to get on. This is the CBO, never really pulled back to give us an entry. This was the CBO. Now we're looking for a quick pitch snatcher, 1-to-1. And if we pull this down to the highs, this may be the high, may go a little bit higher. Either way, we want to get a 1-to-1 before the highs. Quick 1-to-1 trade on there, quick pitch snatcher. That could play out later on. Kiwi Swiss. Very long downtrend. This major level. Huge bullish day yesterday. So hopefully that momentum will continue today. The fibs from the lows to the highs, good as a 382. Pretty much perfectly with the 4-hour 50, the daily pivot, and the 1-hour 50 is catching up pretty quick. So if that does pull back, it's got a fair way to come back. If it does, that could be a nice little entry for a quick, not quick, but a CBO. CBO, we can put our stops a bit tighter behind the 618 and trade up to this red line here's the daily 20. So that could be a very nice looking trade later on. Kiwi yen. Again, Bearish day Friday, bullish day yesterday. Hopefully the momentum will continue. So looking at the fibs again, lows to the high, 382 lines up pretty good with the daily pivot, it's blue line. 1 hour 50 is about here as well. It's already tagged the 4 hour 50, which is respected up here as well. So that could be something to consider. You may want to be reducing risk when you get to the 4 hour 50. So the stop will be behind 75, just here, but this also lines up with the R1, so S1 of the daily pivots, and trading up to the daily 20. Or if you're more conservative, you could trade up to the R1 of the daily pivots. Either way, could be a nice looking trade. Later on, Kiwi USD. There's still looking chart, bullish day yesterday on the daily, back to the hourly. We'll pull back to 382 from these lows to these highs. Just break the 1 hour 50 briefly, week down to 382, give an entry. Again, we've got the 4 hour 50, just be aware of that. Stop behind 75 and the pivot S1, and trading up to conservatively R1, the pivot, 1.7% on there, or up to the daily 20, 3% plus on potentially there as well. So that could be another nice little trade for later. Oh, we're getting there. Dollar CAD. Again, bullish day Friday, bearish day yesterday. So expect that bearish momentum to continue. Looking at the hourly chart, we've got the rundown from the highs. Bounced off the hourly 50, and then it bounced, broke through it, now pulled back, on its way, pulling back hopefully. Again, it's take the 4 hour 50, just be aware of that. Don't that line there anymore. So we've got the fibs from the lows, from the highs to the lows, pulled back to 382, just above the daily pivot, and the 1 hour 50s here as well. So stop behind a 0.75 and target daily 20s down here. So we're targeting just above the daily 20. The reason we do it just above, before the price reaches these potential price targets, is because a lot of other people will have the same things in mind. So what you don't want to do is put it on the daily 20. Lots of orders are being filled in here, and as everyone sells or buys back their position as the price comes down, these will all get filled. It might not reach your price target and then come straight rocketing back. So it's always best just to give it a bit of space, just to make sure your position gets filled. Right, there we go. So that's looking like a nice potential one as well. Just the one for later maybe, which we've been talking about for the last 2 weeks. This dollar yen, it's in this little triangle, and it just won't break up or break down. Looking at the overbought, oversold on the RSI, we can see that it's slowly working its overboughtness off. It's coming back down towards the halfway line. And on the MACD, we can see that we've got the highs are all about the same. It's been drifting lower. So it implies it's coming down, but it implies that maybe it's just burning off the overboughtness just by going sideways. That can happen. So is it going to break up or break down? We don't know. We have to watch the price charts to get an idea. So this still applies. This trend line I've had in here for a while. It's respected again last night, twice. Hasn't broken through. But we did get a higher high up here. So this line here, which is pretty well respected, got broken last night, then broke back down below. So what they could well be is people putting their stops up here, or the short positions, and then they just run the stops to get some liquidity to sell it, and that's on the way down. Maybe. What I'm waiting for is a break of, you could do a break of the 1 hour 50 and this trend line, but you won't have much room to the 4 hour 50, although it could be, it could break down pretty fast. But probably the safest option is to wait for the break of this blue line, the 4 hour 50, break down, pull back, and trade it down to the daily 20. Should be slightly higher now. So that's potential when it breaks down, when and if it breaks down. Otherwise, it might, of course, break higher, pull back, and then we'll take a long trade. Two things here on the watch list. I'll just move those out of my best into the main. So there we go. There's a lot on offer there. I will always do that to my video on first. So keep an eye out. There's lots of potential there. There's lots of nice looking trades, a few pip snatches mixed in as well. Good luck. Hopefully you'll catch something today. It's looking pretty good. And again, be aware this week, lots of news, non-farm payroll on Friday. Liquidity is usually a bit lower this week. Just be aware of that. But otherwise, you get a perfect setup. You've got to jump in, right? So hope you enjoyed that. I'll speak to you tomorrow. Take care.